And when you say courageous vulnerability, like what exactly? Because like I have some mind of what that looks like, but what exactly does that mean to you?
So my definition of courageous vulnerability is about having the courage to speak for all of your thoughts and emotions, especially the bad ones. You know, when you're feeling frustrated towards someone, you kind of bottle that up for a while if you don't have the language. Or if at work you need to give constructive feedback, you're like, oh, I am dreading performance reviews. Yeah. So courageous vulnerability is about the big secret sauce in internal family systems is parts. You just name their part. Joshua, the part of you that is not good with looking at the details when you give me a report, I notice a lot of typos. This part of you is just not really good for what we need to produce for work. Are you willing to work on this part of you? Ooh. So that we could all win together?
Something that I hear from you that I want to recognize is that it's not just speaking your parts, it's speaking them in a respectful way as well.
Yes.
Sorry,
I interrupted. See, my interrupter part.
I have it.
I apologize for my interrupter part.
I have it also. It's okay.
So you see how we just modeled it.
Yeah.
Because if I keep interrupting you, if our conversations going into the future, if I'm not even listening to you and I keep interrupting, that's gonna start to annoy you.
Yeah, it might. And then I would probably say something to you in a respectful way.
Right.
That honors both perspectives and leaves space for both of us to share what we're thinking.
Yes.
Something I've just noticed is that people use honesty and being blunt as an excuse for being rude.
Yeah.
And that's something that bothers me so much.
Yes.
Especially in feedback. Oh, I interrupted you.
I interrupted you again. So that's not coming from self when they're being blunt. It's their blunt part talking with an energy of bluntness. So what Percy and I are trying to teach is get into your highest self with curiosity, connection, compassion, like you're trying to talk to a 3-year-old. I mean, that's really the bottom line if you think about it. 3-year-olds, you're not going to be like... go and do your homework. No, you're going to be like, what's going on, Johnny? You were like throwing sand at the other. Well, you want to get curious and connected. So that's how I see courageous vulnerability.
This is me interrupting.
But you're interrupting.
Yeah, I'm like, God bless the 3-year-old that was talked to that way. I don't know many who were.
That's true. Parents are like, stop it, Johnny.
Yeah. Why are you throwing sand? Yeah, I think in courageous vulnerability, there's 2 things. For me, it's presence and honesty. So it's really presence to what's happening inside of me and being honest for what's happening inside of me. And the inside of me is a key part because when it becomes bluntness is pointing the finger over here and saying, this is who you are and this is what you're doing and this is what you were trying to do. Yeah. What I'm perceiving is that your diet's changed. That's what I'm perceiving. I could be wrong. It helps me, like, if I point the finger right here, I tell some of my clients sometimes, just like when you're talking to someone, just point the finger right here and make sure you're talking about you.
Right.
As opposed to talking to the other person. And even in the language of parts, I personally don't like it when people talk about, like, tell me that I have a part. They tell me that, you know, I think I'm noticing a part that is like this, but if it's like, you know, you have a part that is da-da-da-da-da-da, I'm like, you're telling me about me. Yeah, I want to hear about your experience. If one is talking about one's own experience, then they're not crossing the boundary into
defensive.
Right. Yeah. You cross the line as soon as you start saying you.
Yes.
Or even if you're saying your part, you know, that's still crossing the boundary. That's telling someone about them. And that's not my job. My job is to say what's going on for me. Your job is to say what's going on for you.
There's another way to do it, and I have found this to be very useful. So this is now going in more identifying the voice that's inside of me. Mm-hmm. Hey, Jeffrey, we haven't communicated in a while, and there's a voice inside of me that's saying, did I do something wrong? I'm not getting email responses back. I'm not getting text responses back. I want to know what I've done to cause that. Or maybe I'm just being a little too anxious and I'm not realizing that you're in the middle of a big project and that I don't know about this. Are you willing to help me with my voice that's inside?
Yeah.
So again, that's speaking for the part.
Yeah.
And it's like from yourself. You're like, yeah. So it's a different energy when you're sharing the story of this voice.
Of what's happening inside of you.
Yes.
When I hear that, like my walls just go right down. It's just I want to help you with that. Yeah. And you just, you know, what happened for me is that XYZ, and it just makes it a lot easier.
When I just demoed this speaking for the voice went through your mind. Is that something that makes sense? Does it sound nonviolent and easier?
What went through my mind was, yeah.
It's like pick the technique that makes the most sense to you, that seems the easiest.
Yeah.
I've been guilty of the past of not speaking in this way. And this is through knowing IFS and through going some difficult situations that, oh my God, I don't want to vomit stuff. This is where leaving a voice memo or voice message is so important, because they hear the connection and the compassion that you're speaking. You're just like curious. They're not sensing that mad energy. And they're like, yeah, this voice is saying, did I do something wrong? Are we done with this friendship? And the walls come down.
Even if you were to say, I'm feeling kind of angry because I sent something, I didn't get a response back, I'm wondering what's going on, I'm feeling like maybe you don't respect me, I know that might not be true, like, can you help me out with that? Hey, the anger's still there. When the anger's there, it's there.
Right.
But if it's your own experience that you're owning, it just feels a lot less threatening to me. So it's like all of the feelings, all the emotions, it doesn't have to be like, rainbows and butterflies and curiosity and compassion, because it's not always just going to be that way.
Yeah. So imagine
It's owning your experience that I think is the key.
So imagine all the games that are played during dating with the texting.
Ugh.
What comes up in your mind when you hear that?
I'm just so sick of it. I've had it.
And what if we could actually get to that place, to...
But what would that even?
This is good.
What would that even look like? To
total honesty
from the beginning, when you're on these dating sites where there's no physical presence, where you can't read body language, someone can't get a sense of you. What is that like?
What is that like to do what? To like be honest?
Like, how does that transform past the superficial? Like, hey, exclamation point, how are you doing? Or like whatever generic thing.
What if instead of playing the texting game, what if sooner rather than later, just pick up the phone and screen the potential dates through a conversation? Because a conversation can filter out so many people.
It's like the pre-date conversation, you mean? See, I pick up on so much of how a person carries themselves, walks into a room, and the phone would miss that for me.
So do you try to minimize the text?
In general, or
in terms of dating, like at the beginning stages?
I don't really know anymore. Thinking back to previous experiences, it totally depends on who the person is. I mean, sometimes you get a sense that you can be very honest with someone and upfront without... The issue is that you come off owning yourself and knowing what you want, and then you seem very needy, and it puts a lot of pressure on the situation. I've been at from both sides. So
that when you own yourself, that you come across as needy?
Yeah, you can come across as like clingy or needy or all these other things, because I'm someone where if I want to text someone, I just text them. And if I want to, I don't call, I use FaceTime. But because I think it's more fun. But if I want to FaceTime, I FaceTime. It's not like I don't like to schedule things or make it a big deal. It's very difficult, and I think that you can get screened out by someone based on one text message. And so it puts a lot of pressure on these communications, and then it all becomes like this stage where you're being judged rather than just communicating back and forth with someone.
So what do you do, Percy, with your many dates?
I think what one has to do, and it gets it, like the feeling that you're going into a date with, which is, okay, I just want to be, feel connected and energized, and coming from that place. I guess a different way to say it is that I can't control how the other person is with me. However, the standard that I'm going to uphold myself to, or at least try to, is to be present with what's going on with me and then honest about what's going on in me. That's what I'll do. It so happens that when that happens, if you're being courageously vulnerable, the conversations happen because they're vulnerable conversations. They're interesting. Yeah. It's when there's a whole bunch of BS in the way that, okay, that's a boring date. But if you have a date and you're just like, I'm feeling bored for some reason. All of a sudden, that's not boring anymore. That is courageously well. That amped up the temperature real quick.
Would you say that on a date? Have you said that on a date?
I have said, a more compassionate way of saying it is like, yeah, I feel like I'd want to feel closer to you than I'm feeling right now. Right?
That's beautiful.
Right, and when it's said, it's not a criticism. It's like, actually, no, I want to be closer to you, right? So it's not a criticism. I guess, well, that's how I think that it's sent. You said that's beautiful. What does that bring up in you if I say something like that?
Oh, wow. I didn't know you were feeling that way. You know, now that I think about it, I'm feeling a little distant too. What do you think is going on between us?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I like the way this feels right now.
Yeah.
This feels a lot better than it did before.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because I was afraid to bring that up.
Huh. Oh, so we're in the same place.
Yeah, a couple of days ago, you came into the house and I noticed a different energy and I felt like I didn't want to push any buttons. So I kind of retreated.
Right. I mean, if it goes from there, it's just like, okay, no longer boring. This is instantly not boring anymore.
This is instant intimacy. Let's get to the bedroom.
Instant intimacy.
Right.
Well, I'm wondering what if the other
Just
person
add
says,
If you continue down that path, that's already creating the emotional intimacy where if you haven't made love in a couple of weeks because you've been feeling distant, that's already creating, that's creating the foreplay.
Right.
That's foreplay in and of itself.
It is.
That's interesting.
I was curious about what you were going to ask.
Well, I'm wondering what if the other person says, oh, really? What if they have a very different perception of what's going on and they do feel connected or they...
And in that moment, you still speak for what's going on in you. And so what would that sound like? I guess what it would sound like for me is like, yeah, it sounds like we're having different experiences here and I wonder why that is. It's my stuff, but yeah, I'm still feeling like we're in different worlds here.
And that's kind of scary.
It is scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of the whole courageous vulnerability.
Oh yeah, it's scary.
It's scary to be off, like on a different page than someone else.
Yeah. Scary to feel like you had different interpretations and then scary because maybe it means that I think it can be easy then to jump to the next step. Like, what does this mean? Does this mean we're going in separate directions and taking it farther and farther than what it may actually be just in this moment, just being in different energies right now.
But right, you asked what that means and the real answer is I don't think it necessarily means that we need to like in the date or check please, right, or anything like that. I'm totally cool with us being in two different places right now because we're two different people. Of course, occasionally we're going to be at different places. I'm cool with it. I hope you're cool with it too.
And I think that's really, not to get out of the role play, but I think that's really, I think that's really unique because often in my experience dating, that type of conversation, it would not be approached that way and it would be true feelings only come out when the person's made their decision already and it's done.
Yeah. And that kind of gets to the point of like, does it require to like date someone with a certain amount of emotional intelligence and self-awareness?
Yes.
It's gotta be close. You can't be so far off. It's very difficult to be on that, catch up to the same level. I think it's okay if one person is a little bit below and the person that's a little bit higher can bring that other person up if this other person is interested in developing that intimacy. By Percy asking that, I'm feeling a little disconnected off. That's his I'm seeking intimacy. I want more connection with you.
Right. If two people aren't on the same page that's what they want, they can be on the same page that they want two different things. And that's awesome. Like, we can be friends, and I hope you get what you want, because that's what I want for you. That can be very intimate. If the two of you want different things, you're in agreement, and you hope one another gets various things. It's not a dating relationship. It's not necessarily a romantic relationship, but it's still an intimate relationship. If we're on the same page, that we're on different pages. You're not excommunicating a person, based upon the fact that you're in two different worlds and you want two different things.
Well, this is where if you've had a great relationship in the beginning, the sex was hot, the physical attraction was great, and then it's starting to peter out, then you're finding that you're on two different levels. This is where you could have a conscious uncoupling.
Conscious uncoupling.
This is where, yes, you could have a conscious uncoupling and set the other person free.